What's going on, Reds? Welcome back to another episode of Liverpool Latest. I'm your host, Matt. Thanks for joining me on today's episode. If you enjoy it, I highly implore you to leave a like or a rating wherever platform you are watching or listening. And most importantly, be sure to subscribe to help us grow the platform so that I can be your daily source of news and entertainment regarding everybody's favorite football club, Liverpool. I got a lot to talk about today. So first and foremost, as always, after a match, I like to touch on Arne Slot's press conference after the fact. It's not often I agree with Slot on things, especially in recent weeks where we have been having just disappointment after disappointment after disappointment. But if it's one thing Arne Slot talked about that I liked, was the mentality aspect of the team. I think for too long, we have been willing to give up goals late in the game that either draw the match or lose it. Now, I have harped on the fact that I myself do not like when we have to do that because it's very nerve-wracking. But the fact that we walk away with the win is still good nonetheless. But when we walk away with a loss, it begs the question of what the mentality of the team is trying to stay in the game. With Everton and the Merseyside Derby, it's a completely different story here. Even Slot goes on to emphasize the fact of, mentality over tactics, which is very odd coming from him, considering that tactics seems to be his most go-to conversation or excuse for any win or loss. So I was quite, I don't want to say impressed, but surprised, to say the least. The late game resilience was something we desperately needed. I'm not going to lie to you. I thought the game was over once extra time came in. I was like, listen, if we walk away with at least a point, I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to be happy about it, but I'm not going to complain about it either, knowing that we already beat Everton earlier in the season. So Liverpool still kind of remains on top of the derby. When we did score, that was a huge deal. And I think that was a huge deal all around because of, one, it was a set piece. Two, it was Virgil van Dijk, who has been having his own fair share of struggles this season. So I like the idea of the whole late game resilience. I like the whole late game mentality. Something that we have not had in quite some time is a killer instinct. And it's nice to see a change of pace for once, at least for a game, because it's just been so lackluster this season, not just across the Premier League, but across all competitions between the EFL Cup, the FA Cup, what else was there, and the Champions League. It's just been lackluster all season. So the fact that we can pull out a win against Everton, of all teams, was good enough in itself. Granted, we are still dealing with a litany of injuries, the latest one being Mamardashvili, which I will talk about here in a second. But just a couple of things. Slot was definitely positive and proud of the team, for sure, from the tone I was getting when I was reading the transcript on Liverpool's website. And, of course, the focus on the intangibles, like the mentality and effort over the tactics, was certainly something that, again, I like to hear. I feel like Arne Slot is too much of an analytical coach, and if I'm being frank with you, I am not a fan of using analytics as a way to coach games. I think analytics is a very important thing in sports when it comes to coaching teams, but I don't think it should be everything. Too many of my teams that I support, whether it's hockey, baseball, basketball, coaches rely too much on analytics, especially baseball, because Aaron Boone's been notorious for this for the better part of the last several years. When it comes to sports, you have to feel the game out. You have to be able to come back when the going gets tough, and you have to make those calls not just based on analytics, but based on what you think is good for the team. And I think in this case, one of those rare occasions this season where I think the team came together and decided to shift that mentality and get that winning goal. So I think that was a great game for us against Everton. Uh, nothing makes me happier than seeing them walk out of their own brand new stadium defeated and deflated. So I can't help but smile about that news. What I can't smile about is how Liverpool is going to handle the Mamardashvili injury. Now, the good news is it doesn't seem like it's a huge major season-ending injury. From what I have been reading, the incident occurred when, Everton scored the equalizer. Of course, we all know that. But what happened during the collision was a big open wound. So it wasn't a muscle and it wasn't a bone issue. So that is a good thing. So a wound can clearly heal better than, and much quicker than any sort of muscle or bone injury. So as far as the immediate situation goes, he was taken to the hospital after leaving the pitch. Of course, Freddie Woodman was the keeper to step in for him. Did a pretty solid job for as long as he was in the game, which wasn't really that long. It was a little less than half of the game. And Slot stated that, of course, the injury did not appear long-term, which is perfect. But, of course, the severity of the wound was something that they are worried about. What I'm concerned about now is where we're going to be as far as keepers go, okay? Freddie Woodman, I don't think, has played a single game all season. If he has, it's been like maybe one other competition outside of his start, not his start, but his appearance in the game against Everton. So I'm not really sure how well I could rely on Freddie Woodman. I know I can't rely on Mamardashvili for the life of me. And even lately, I can't even rely on Alisson Becker. But I will still pick Alisson Becker over Mamardashvili. And honestly, I can't really tell too much to Woodman, but if he's as good as advertised and if he sticks it out these couple of weeks, I'll probably say that I trust Woodman more than Mamardashvili, but that's not given yet, so I'm going to hold my judgments for a later time. So yes, this is a very disappointing disruption for Liverpool, as it's just another injury to add to the list. Thank God that this is not long-term. I do hope Mamardashvili feels better soon. I did not see any sort of wound on him when he left the pitch. I didn't see any blood or anything. Maybe there's a photo there somewhere, but I personally could not notice any sort of major issue with him other than the fact that he just couldn't walk right or couldn't get up. So whatever that wound was and wherever it was, which looked like it was pretty much close to his crotch because the injury happened very in between his legs type deal. I hope it wasn't where I thought it was, but I hope he gets better soon, and I hope that he just continues to try and improve because he didn't have a bad game. Outside of the Beto goal where he's clearly out of position, he didn't have a bad game. So some other things I happen to be noticing is, of course, the most recent transfer rumors. According to ESPN, Liverpool are eyeing not just Marcos Senesi, but also Jeremy Manga. So a little bit about each player. As far as Senesi goes, he is a part of Bournemouth. His contract expires this summer, so that's a potential freak pickup that we can have. 28 years old, he started 31 of the 32 Premier League matches up to this point. There's also interest in from the likes of United, Chelsea, and Barcelona. And considering that it seems like he's a defenseman, he's being framed as a long-term successor option for one Virgil van Dijk. I don't know if I agree with that part because he's already 28 years old. Maybe he's in the prime of his career, maybe he's not. But Virgil's 35, so realistically, how long are we going to have Senesi in the position where he's in? Now, if we can pick him up, that's great. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that that I don't know if I agree with the idea of him being the Virgil van Dijk successor. Because if we're going to have one, it's got to be soon, because he's only got 1 year left of his contract up to this point, or he can leave sooner in January. Jeremy Manga is another player who currently plays for Leicester City. He is a winger and an emerging young talent implied by the report at hand. So, going to be a very interesting transfer season for us because it seems like a lot of transfers are starting to come up now. I did not know about Senesi having his contract up this summer. That's news to me, honestly. I do know that there's probably a bunch of other interest from other clubs. Like I said, United, Chelsea, and Barcelona, possibly more. But I could definitely see him going to one of those clubs, including ours. As far as the cost goes, clearly Senesi is the most low-cost, high-reliable defensive option. The idea that we can get someone on a free is very, very important, mostly because the center back position has been such a depleted role for us as of recent because, like I've been saying all season, defensive injuries, Virgil van Dijk and Konate have more or less started every single match together for the most part, outside of maybe a couple of outliers. So those poor guys are probably run ragged at the ripe age of 35 years old. Virgil van Dijk probably can't keep it at this pace much longer. So if we can sign someone like Senesi for a much shorter period of, well, not very short, but for a bit of a longer period of time, and have him work with Van Dijk a little bit. Not that he doesn't already know how to do his job, but clearly there's going to be expectations of him, so Virgil, as captain, will probably have to coach him a little bit. We're going to have to see. But as far as his appearance rate goes, I mean, 31 of 32 Premier League matches is not anything to blink an eye at. I mean, so clearly he's durable. Clearly, I wouldn't say he's immune to injury, but he certainly has a lot more of a chance of not getting injured as of right now than, say, other players we have. As far as the wide depth planning with Manga, the interest implies that Liverpool is continuing to focus on wing depth and youth. As I've said before, this is a very much a youth movement the club is now moving towards, which, as sad as it is to see my favorite players go, it's inevitable in the world of sports. Competition with Newcastle, though, is going to be the key because it indicates that a deal, as far as for Manga goes, is far from secured for Liverpool. I don't know much about Manga. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm an expert on him. I have my pick still for who we think we should be signing for wingers, but if Manga is an option, I am not going to sit here and bat an eye on it. Is he lower on the totem pole for me? Yes. After all, this is Leicester City we're talking about, so who knows how good he actually is. I would like until he joins, a real club, let's say. But bottom line is Liverpool are clearly trying to have a layered recruitment strategy this summer, which this is probably the best reporting as far as planning goes for Liverpool that I've heard in a long time, because all the rumors seem to be like everywhere. Like, oh, we want this guy. Oh, they're looking at this guy. Oh, they're looking at that guy. This is probably the most structured analysis I have had as far as what the club's actual plans are going into the offseason and the transfer portal in the summer. But that's not all, because we also have quite a bit of more news. The Bundesliga is another league Liverpool is trying to poach from, and Ousmane Diomande has responded to direct links of transfers to Liverpool, and as he is currently being pursued by both Liverpool and Chelsea. Now, keep in mind, this is not Jan Diomande I'm talking about here. This is Ousmane Diomande. So, two completely different Diamandes. One I'm a little bit roughly familiar with because I've been talking about him all for the better part of since I've been doing this show. And the other one, this one's a newer name for me, so excuse me if I am not as much of an expert as I should be on the subject, but clearly he is acknowledging the speculation of a potential move. As far as he's concerned, he's focused on the current club he is a part of as well as management, but he's open but not committal regarding any sort of future transfers. So there is a bunch of respectful interest there. Nothing concrete, no personal terms, no nothing, but he is acknowledging the fact that there are other clubs out there that are interested in signing him for the near future. So, granted, this is a very early stage rumor. I'm putting absolutely no stock in this. This is just scouting and monitoring. So this is nothing that I am not unfamiliar with, because I've been talking about, similar situations to this. But I like the fact that, again, we are trying to put a proper plan in place for Liverpool in for the upcoming year, the upcoming season, and probably the years following. My only real concern is, what's the team going to look like when I go to see them in July? Granted, I know it's going to be a bunch of second string guys because it's preseason, but I'm curious to know what the actual team is going to look like and how it's going to shape up, because once this season ends in May, who knows what's going to happen from there. I mean, signings could happen that night, signings could happen that week, signings could happen later on in the summer. Who knows? But I'm excited to see what's going on with the club. I think this is probably the most positive I have been about the recruiting and the transfer process in quite some time, especially since the, in my opinion, absolute blunder of January. So we'll have to keep much more of an eye on things here at Liverpool Latest, and I appreciate the fact that you have joined me today for this episode. But again, be sure to leave a like, comment your thoughts if you can, and most importantly, follow the show, share it with your friends. If you're a Liverpool fan, you need to subscribe right here to me on Liverpool Latest, and of course, support Fan Arch and its other litany of shows if you are a fan of multiple sports and multiple teams. They all do a very good job in their own right. So again, thanks for the support. Thanks for the love. I will see you guys on the next one. Have a good one. And most importantly, when you join the Liverpool Latest family, know that you never walk alone.